This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our class this morning. I am Larissa Philpott. I'm the president and CEO of the Nacogdoches Economic Development Corporation, and I'm excited to once again partner with Wayne Mitchell here at our partners at the Nacogdoches County Chamber of Commerce on our next business development series. I'm going to leave it to Wayne to make the introductions, but just a quick shout out to our two speakers today. Brandi is just a wealth of knowledge, and she is a very engaging and fun speaker. She's such a huge asset to have in our community, along with the rest of her office. We're so excited and thankful to have SFA's Career Services as an asset and something that a tool for us to use in Nacogdoches. And then Ryan is such another great asset for our community. In working at the hotel, they have so many employees over there, and Ryan is such a great example of working to find the right employees. They do a great job of that. They do a great job of training. They've unfortunately had to weed out some employees that didn't quite fit exactly the model that they wanted a Fredonia hotel employee to be. And they've done a really, really great job of building a team over there. So I feel like I'm leaving you all in good hands today. And thank you both very much for speaking. I hate to do this, but I've got another meeting that I've got to jump off and run to. So I just wanted to say hello, everybody, and welcome them, and thank you for joining us today.
And good morning. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Wayne Mitchell, and I join you from the Nacogdoches County Chamber of Commerce, and we are proud partners with our friends and at the Nacogdoches Economic Development Corporation, and we thank Larissa and Mary Frances for the great work that they're doing down there on behalf of the city of Nacogdoches. It's my honor to introduce our two presenters today, and first will be Brandi Derouen. Brandi is Assistant Director of SFA's Center for Career and Professional Development. While serving as the Assistant Director, she serves as the Employment Relations Specialist to connect recruiters to students seeking employment and internship experiences. She also coaches students through the exploration of different career and major options. She works one-on-one with students to help connect transferable skills to employment opportunities through development of professional documents as well as effective interviewing skills. Brandi earned her bachelor's of science degree in hospitality administration in May of 2010 from SFA, and her master's degree in student affairs in higher education in May of 2018. She's a first-generation college student and proudly supports the Gen Jacks program as a success coach and by teaching a career development course. And we're thrilled to have Brandi as one of our two presenters today. The second is a member of my board of directors. Ryan Russell is the Assistant General Manager of the Fredonia Hotel and Convention Center. As the Assistant General Manager, he oversees all departments, including sales and marketing, grounds, events, all hotel and restaurant operations. Ryan also earned his bachelor's degree in hospitality administration from Stephen F. Austin State University. He previously worked in Nashville in hospitality operations and served as the catering director for Aramark on the SFA campus. So Ryan and Brandi, welcome aboard, and we look forward to your presentation this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for having us. All right, well, thank you all so much for having us here today. We're going to be talking a little bit about hiring the right employee right now in the times that we're facing. As Wayne said, my name is Brandi Derouen, and I'm the Assistant Director for the SFA Center for Career and Professional Development.
And my name is Ryan Russell. I'm the Assistant General Manager of the Fredonia Hotel. We're both very excited to be here to talk to you today about different hiring practices and maybe some things that we found kind of on our different ends of the spectrum over the years.
All right, so when we're thinking about hiring and engaging the right employee, we wanted to cover these 4 topics today. So everything from soliciting and advertising your actual posting, getting it out there for others to view. Also engaging with the talent early and often so that you're hiring the candidate quickly. making the connection during the interview, so really hiring the person for the best fit for the company, and then of course retaining that talent beyond the time that, of course, the longest amount of time you can have with them to really benefit your organization.
So one thing we did want to kind of point out today is everybody is well aware that COVID-19 has kind of changed really how everything operates. So some of these practices, that we've done in the past are somewhat have changed even just since April. So just kind of something to keep in mind, things that are a little different now, investing in talent. It's a whole different world out there, and I know times are tough, budgets are tighter. So, investing in talent is something that is harder to do, but still important. And I know it's also hard right now to even get people at work. For as many people that have had a job loss, there's a lot of people that just aren't wanting to work right now, and that's slowly coming around. We know that is something that blockade people are having to deal with right now. And then just a few things, we kind of want people to keep in mind. You just have to, right now in this time, be creative and be willing to find other ways, maybe even something that we don't talk about here. Maybe there's something specific for your business that you've got to be creative and find employees that way. It's a weird time for everybody, so you just kind of got to do what you've got to do to get the right person for you. And then a few things, when we were discussing, what challenges are people facing right now, and just kind of in our talks, we thought, a lot of people, a lot of employees are really just wanting clarity on what your company's COVID-19 procedures are. And if you are interviewing something, are you taking any precautions for the interview, that kind of thing. So just make sure you're communicating that with your talent. Also things like if remote work an option, and then just establish the correct communication channels with the employee from the very beginning. And we'll kind of touch on that more later in the presentation, but just, making sure that they know, hey, this is how we're doing things. It's a little different than normal. We hope maybe to get back to kind of our normal procedure soon. So just kind of wanted to put that little COVID asterisk in there before we get started.
All right, so the first thing that we do want to chat about is making sure that when you are recruiting talent, that you're starting with a really strong foundation. So having a job description actually created that you can publish and advertise to people is something that we're going to recommend that you consider doing. Oftentimes, we have an idea of what we want that individual to do in the work or in the job, but pausing to actually write that down and outline it for somebody to review and read about online is going to be the best way that you can engage in people in a virtual setting. So if you're thinking about what are some ways that I can start to create an actual job posting or modify the one that we currently have, there's a really great resource out there called ONET, and it's onetonline.org. So we have it pulled up here on the screen, and we're just going to look in the search in the upper right hand corner where it says customer service representative. So what we're going to do is we're just going to search that actual position. Oh, if you'll give us just a moment, we're going to share our screen real quick. All right, now you should see this resource. Okay, so in the upper right hand corner, again, this website is onetonline.org, and we will share this at the end of the presentation. But in the upper right hand corner, we can search for customer service representative or whatever position you're trying to actually design a job posting for. On the screen, it's going to pull up a variety of different resources that you can pull from, but for today's demonstration, we're just going to click on the first one that says customer service representative. So a lot of rich information on this resource, but the key area I'm going to encourage y'all to pay attention to is the task section. So it is going to be compressed into a shorter menu, but you can expand that out and actually read through these different bullet points to decide, is this something that somebody does at my organization? And do I want to add that to my job description or include it in the job description that I currently have? The other thing I would encourage y'all to pay attention to on this particular resource is if we scroll up just a little bit, there's going to be a section that's called sample reported job titles. So maybe you're getting tired of using the same old customer service representative title. Know that you can get a little crafty with how you want to call this position just to maybe catch the eye of a different person that's applying for a particular position. So we're going to jump back over to the presentation. Again, that resource is onetonline.org. Okay. All right, we're going to get that presentation pulled up. And the other resource that I wanted to share with y'all is going to be using these resources in combination with other resources that might be available online for you. So a lot of organizations are most likely hiring for a very similar position that you are looking to fill as well. And you know, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So there is no shame in going online and looking around at what other organizations are posting and how they have their positions outlined, especially if it matches your organization.
Yeah, I know at the Fredonia, whenever we were first opening, you know, there's lots of different departments, a lot of employees, you know, a lot of different jobs that people are doing. And it's quite the undertaking to come up with a job description for every single one of those. So that's what we did. We looked at other hotel chains that we kind of liked, their customer service style, the things that they offer. And we kind of just mimicked those, you know, and added in our own. We learned, tweaked for our individual jobs, but added it in and just took those job descriptions and kind of made them our own. And it's very helpful.
So that's, again, creating that strong foundation. If you haven't taken a minute to look at your actual job posting, those are some great resources that you can consider to start looking at. The other thing is to reevaluate your job postings regularly. I know, you know, sometimes we just post the same thing over and over, but really pausing and reflecting, is this a position that is actually reflective of what this person does in this role?
So one way at the Fredonia that we've, or that I've kind of come to learn that is helpful when reevaluating a job position is if you have an employee that you know is moving on and it's the position you're going to be hiring for, have that current employee that's in that position before they leave rewrite their own job description. And sometimes it's eye-opening to see kind of what they interpret their job as. So, you know, because it's just natural, jobs kind of morph into different things over time. You know, all jobs have that all job descriptions have that very important line and other duties as given. And, you know, so sometimes those duties become more and more. So it's interesting to kind of look at that, have that person in the current position write their job description and compare it to that old one, and then kind of see, okay, you know what, we need to update this job description to reflect these duties. This position has morphed into that. And then I think that gives that new candidate, that new person coming in, really just a clearer picture of what that job would be. You don't want to use a job description from 10 years ago, just the same time and post it every time, because jobs change, especially, you know, kind of what we talked about with COVID. Everybody's kind of getting more responsibilities because, you know, you can't afford to, well, we used to have 2 people for this, now you're going to do both. So, you know, that's just kind of where we're at right now. So it's important to just reevaluate those descriptions.
And the last thing I would encourage you to think about is doing an exit interview with your candidate as they're leaving your organization. We understand that they may be moving on for a variety of different reasons, but really pausing to figure out what are some key things that they really enjoyed about working at your organization, but being vulnerable enough to listen to what are some key things that they didn't enjoy working at that organization. And perhaps it was the job had morphed into too much. And so perhaps that gives you an opportunity to reevaluate that position internally and decide, how can I move this position forward to attract the right talent and attract the right candidate for next time? So taking a few minutes to chat with those candidates as they're leaving and being ready for that feedback to help improve your organization's hiring procedure.
And so now that you've laid the foundation, you kind of know exactly, okay, this is the position we're looking for, this is who we need. You've got to find that person. And again, with COVID, that's a little different than now. And even, you know, from years past, you're no longer putting flyers in your window saying help wanted. You're not putting an ad in the newspaper or anything. You know, it's basically all online now. And so, you know, I know a few ways that we have really been successful in advertising for positions at the Fredonia is social media. And specifically, we use Facebook, and even more specifically within Facebook, we have kind of tapped in to different groups. So we use a hospitality alumni Facebook group for any position. You know, sometimes we have alumni are wanting to, do things, work at the front desk, servers, housekeeping, whatever. But it's also one that we really use when looking for management positions. There's another Facebook group for current hospitality students that we use, and that's really where we're focusing on hiring for servers, front desk, housekeeping, things like that. Just because it's a great experience for them to come work for us, and they're going to want to come work for us to get, get that line on their resume for when they do graduate and move on to maybe a more full-time position. So that's just a way, that we've had a little bit of success and kind of found a little niche on Facebook where we can find those people that are really interested in working for us. And I know a lot of the different majors at SFA, have these Facebook groups and everything. So maybe figure out, what your business is and think, okay, what group, what college student am I really going after? And do a little research on Facebook. See if you can find a group that maybe you can join, and then post your applications, your job postings there.
The other thing to consider is LinkedIn. I know LinkedIn is a global network where you can actually post your positions. As an organization, I would encourage you to file for because they know that's where they can find jobs and they can research companies and find opportunity. And so it's a giant network where you can connect and engage with potential talent. So a lot of people outside of the East Texas area may be using LinkedIn to source different positions that they might find interesting in applying for before they even move to Deep East Texas. Moving forward onto Indeed, y'all use Indeed,
We
right?
do. We use Indeed. We have found a lot of success on Indeed. Even more so, and there's nothing wrong with these websites, but we've just found more success on Indeed versus websites like ZipRecruiter or Monster, any different of those. We've just found more success on Indeed. And I encourage people to use it. We actually, through our website, through our hiring portal on our website, we can link our jobs to Indeed. So I know a lot of people use different, payroll websites and stuff that a lot of times might have a hiring portal. So if you're not utilizing that, look through that and see if that's something that software that you utilize offers, because it could be great that you can post that to your website. There's applications, and a lot of them do link to websites like Indeed. And it's just a great way to get your job out there because people are looking at it. I mean, I know people kind of just browse Indeed all the time. It's one of those things that's like, oh, let me just see what jobs are out there, And so I really encourage people to put it on there. And like I said, we found great success for both, hourly frontline employees and management positions.
Another really great place to post your position is on your website. So when a candidate is doing research on different organizations that they might find interesting, or maybe they stumble upon it on Indeed or they see it on Facebook, they may actually pause and go to your company website to do a little bit more research about what you're all about. So having a career section or a job section on your website that is easy to find, nothing that I have to dig too deep into your website to actually find, and have your postings listed there. I know that may take a little bit of management of putting those up and taking those down, or you can leave them down at all times and just say that you're not currently hiring or whatever that might look like for you.
I'll add to the website. Every once in a while, you still do get people coming in to your place of business and say, hey, I want to apply, for a job. Well, there's no more, paper applications, can't give them something to fill out right then. So we've created a card that just has the detailed instructions of go to our website, click this tab, go to this link, here's the jobs that you can apply for. That we can just hand them, we give them to our front desk so they can just, because that's generally where people go, so they just hand them out. And then people just have that information and can kind of go and do it that way. So a little spin on that coming in and asking for a paper application, filling it out, just kind of adapting for today's needs.
Yeah, and when we think about starting on a strong foundation, it makes me think about having those communication channels in line of if somebody walks in, what are we going to tell them and what are we going to get them to our website to apply. So excellent stuff to think about. So at Stephen F. Austin State University, we do have another resource that you can post your positions at, and that is called Handshake. So Handshake is our online career management platform that all students and alumni have access to as they become a student here at SFA. So as an employer on Handshake, you can not only post your positions, but you can also, very similar to other websites, redirect candidates to your company's website to apply internally. So it can streamline the application process and reach a talent pool of almost 13,000 students. If you're interested in getting connected on Handshake, please let me know. I'm eager to help you get assistance on that to start getting your positions posted and advertised for SMA students and alumni. Moving beyond Handshake though, I think about the current talent that we have, and if our current individuals or our current employees know that we're looking to fill a position, seeing what kind of opportunity they may know about as far as potential candidates.
Yeah, and I would kind of put a little asterisk on this one. If an employee suggests, hey, this person would be really good for the job, make sure you kind of analyze which employee is telling you that. If it's somebody that maybe doesn't always do the best job for you, or might have some issues, just think about that. But if it's somebody that you trust, and know, okay, they do a really good job, then maybe that their suggestion would be, a really good employee. And at the hotel, we've had a lot of recommendations from current employees that have turned out and worked really well for us. Another just little asterisk I'll add to that is when hiring family members, sometimes that can be a little tricky, if you have multiple family members in one department. So my suggestion would be, if you do have family members, maybe hire them in a different department if that's an option for your place of business. And always try and avoid putting one family member as a supervisor of another family member. It just doesn't end well sometimes. So, try and avoid that heartache if you can.
All right, so we've talked about starting with a strong foundation. We've got a stellar job posting created, we've advertised it, we've got it online, we've got it in opportunities for other people to actually start to apply to. Next step is going to be really formulating what your process is going to look like internally. So figuring out in your organization, just to streamline that communication, who are the people in your organization that are going to be responsible for coordinating the hiring of this person? Because you want it to be a smooth transition for the candidates that you're bringing in. So thinking about who in our organization is going to be the one that initially posts to all of these different platforms. Who's going to be the one that sits down to review the applicants as they come in? Who is going to be the person that is connecting with the talent and calling them in for an interview? Who's going to actually conduct the interview with these individuals as they're coming in? So we're not trying to grab people from meetings to dedicate time to this individual. Next, who's going to be offering them the position and actually hiring them on? And then what does that onboarding process look like for the individual that you're bringing in?
So I'll use, for example, at the hotel and our restaurant specifically, our old way of hiring, because we have a few different managers in our food and beverage department, and it was just kind of whatever happened. It was kind of a free-for-all. So one manager might look at this application and call and say, okay, I'm going to bring them in and set up the interview. But it was a day when another manager was there, and it was just kind of things were falling through the cracks, and potential hires were kind of getting frustrated just because it wasn't the most organized thing. So we realized, all right, we're going to dedicate one food and beverage manager to the hiring for this department. And so now she goes through, she posts the job, she reviews, she sets up the interviews, she is in charge of orientation, getting them onboarded, all of that kind of thing. Now, I will say, I understand we do have a bit of a luxury that we can kind of choose, who is going to do these things. Some of these businesses, some of your business, it might just be you, and so you have no choice but to do it all. But still, it's great to know that process, and it's just kind of touching back on, our COVID asterisk earlier. Streamlining things is more important than ever, and just communication, knowing the process. There's just kind of so much craziness going on in the world. Just giving somebody just a reassurance that, hey, this is the process, this is how we're doing it. Knowing your steps really is going to make the whole process much easier.
Yes. And that kind of stems off of having all of your processes in order is important, because good candidates go quickly. So we would recommend that when you're posting a position, that you are reviewing those applications as they come in. Typically, when you have a highly sought after candidate, they're applying for more than one position at a time. And so sometimes somebody else may engage with them quicker, and so they move forward with the interview process, and they may be already at the offer stage when you're just going through and starting to review those applications. So reviewing those as they come in, making a connection with that candidate quickly, and getting them on your interview schedule can help speed up and expedite you being able to connect with talent.
And I would also kind of say the same for the opposite. If you see an application come in and right away this isn't a fit, go ahead and let that candidate know this isn't it. Thank you for applying. Or or if you have some people that you're on the fence about, don't let them know and kind of wait until you get a verbal yes from the candidate you do end up hiring, just in case something doesn't work out. But if you do see somebody that you just know absolutely this isn't going to work, you can kind of maybe cut them loose at the beginning. But then, follow up with everybody that you've interviewed, regardless if it's a yes or no. And I think we've all been in that position, kind of where you think, I didn't hear anything, I wonder what's happening. Just a phone call, a quick phone call saying, hey, thank you for coming in. We've gone in a different direction. It goes a long way, and I think it shows some professionalism on your part.
And even for candidates that maybe you don't actually speak with, candidates that just submitted their application, but based on their application that you're not interested in pulling them in right now, sending them a quick email just to let them know that you're moving in a different direction and you wish them the best of luck in their job search. It just kind of adds that bit of closure for the candidate so they know, okay, I'm ready to move on to something else. All right, so we've solicited the position, we've advertised it everywhere, we've got our talent, and we're ready to start actually conducting the interview. So what do you actually talk about when you have a candidate in your office or in your organization? Of course, going through the job description is going to be able to allow an opportunity for you and the candidate to really flesh out any questions, or you can offer some more clarity on what the position will actually be responsible for. Job descriptions tend to be written in a way that are, kind of stiff and very rigid. But when you add a little bit of dialogue to the actual posting, it kind of helps humanize what this person will be doing in that actual position.
And I think, it's obviously very important. You want to talk about the job, talk about their duties, talk about the job description. But something that is just as equally as important in an interview is getting to know someone's personality and figuring out, okay, how would they interact with my customers? Kind of asking them some questions, just ask them about their interests, ask them some things that would kind of get them to maybe liven up a little bit. Just have a conversation with you, because personality and fitting in with workplace culture is so important. And you don't want somebody that's just going to be over here when the rest of your staff is over here, and that it wouldn't mesh well. So you really need to pay attention, ask some of those personality type questions.
And I think too, once you call somebody in for an interview, you as the hiring supervisor, you know that they are most likely qualified to do the job. Based on what the resume and the application that they submitted, you know that functionally they can perform the tasks for the most part. When you're at the interview phase, it's really about, is this person going to work well for our organization? Even if there's things on the job description that you maybe don't think that they can do or they haven't expressed that they can do, you can teach them those things. But as far as the fit with your organization, that's going to be a harder thing to kind of teach that candidate. So we think about, different ways that you can engage with the candidate. Of course, moving into a traditional one-on-one interview where it's one hiring manager and a candidate having those healthy conversations, but also maybe mixing it up a little bit and doing more of a panel interview for maybe a higher stakes position, or even doing group interviews if that's something that fits in with their company model.
I really like at the hotel, kind of our model for our frontline hourly employees is we have a 2-interview system. First time the potential new hire comes in, they meet with they interview with their direct supervisor, and they really go over more of, this is the job, they go over the duties, that kind of thing. Still talk about personality level, but then if the hiring manager says, hey, you know what, I like them, I think they're going to be a good fit, we either schedule a second interview or if I'm available to talk to them right then, kind of do interview part 2. And that's when I go in and really, again, I've left the actual duties up to the hiring manager. I go in and talk about workplace culture. And again, just kind of get to know them, make sure that, you get a good vibe off of them, see how they interact with you, see if they can kind of laugh at some of your really bad jokes, just kind of do all those things, get a feel that the employee is kind of fit in. And I think it kind of makes them a little more comfortable because they learn, okay, this is how this place works. I kind of talk about the things that we expect from all employees and kind of build that whole little talk I have with them around customer service for our particular place of business. That's kind of really the thing that matters the most. So I think kind of that 2-interview system works really well for that frontline hourly manager, hourly associate position. But then kind of how you mentioned a panel interview is something that I personally like for a management position. So again, I would suggest this is maybe your first stop, having a potential manager come in and meet with all your current managers, but maybe a second interview or something, have to meet with you and a few of the managers of the organization. So the managers can interact with them. Again, I think it's just a great way to judge how they're going to interact with their peers. And then it just kind of lets them loosen up a little and learn a little more about the culture.
Yeah, and kind of thinking about that investment of time. So it sounds like y'all take a tremendous amount of time in getting to know the person to see if they're going to be a good fit. But that also allows you to be able to provide any clarity or really focus on the meaning of your organization. And just based on this conversation, it sounds like customer service is the root of that.
Yeah.
So being able to identify, listen, this is what we're about, and this is what our organization supports, that's going to be more clear for the candidate so they can decide if that's something that is important to them in their meeting of work as they're searching for an opportunity. Stemming from that, also making sure that you ask really good questions. And your job description that you have written is a great foundation for you to start to figure out what key questions do I want to ask them. So as an example, if you're looking for somebody that is highly organized and you have that on your job description, you may want to ask them a question that is presented in a way where they can demonstrate that they can organize things or that they can use some sort of technology. Tell me about a time when you had to use Excel, or tell me how you organize your workstation, or how would you handle this situation. So that's going to really be able to give you a clear indication of the individual's ability to identify the skills and the skill set that they're going to bring to your organization.
And then not only do you need to ask the questions, but you need to be prepared for them to ask you questions. And you want them to ask you questions. If a candidate, you say, do you have any questions? They say, no. That might throw up a little red flag. You want your candidates to ask questions. And things they could ask you are just things about the day-to-day schedule, work attire, company values, salary, benefits. So, kind of be ready to answer and talk on any of those subjects, because you kind of really never know what they could ask. So just kind of be ready for the broad range of it.
Yes. And overall, really making sure that while you're interviewing that candidate, you're doing your best to make a connection with them. If you choose to offer this person this position, they're going to be not only working with your organization, but they're going to be representing your organization. And so you've already taken a huge amount of time to invest in your engagement with this person. So really pausing to critically think, do I actually see them fitting in well with this organization and bringing it to that next level, especially during these COVID times?
So when you are looking at these new hires, you're doing these interviews, there's a few things to consider just kind of based on the interview. So some things would be timeliness. You want a candidate to show up on time. If you have somebody that shows up, I think even 5 minutes late, that's not, getting off and starting with a great impression. You want somebody to be there, be early, look for those things. You want somebody to be dressed nice. I always think you want to dress for the position that the job you want. So if somebody comes in and they're sweatpants or something like that, okay, maybe that's not given the best sign. And then I am a big believer still in bringing professional documents to an interview. Even though now, a lot of times you can print their resume off online or their application, whatever, I think it goes a long way when a candidate brings a copy of their resume, brings a copy of their cover letter, references, whatever that may be. I think that just shows that they're prepared, they're organized, they're on top of things, and that they really want the position. Now, one kind of thing to watch out here is beware of good actors. We've talked about this, and I am by no means immune to. We've hired some people that were just excellent actors in their interview. Some of the best interviews that I've ever had. They answered every question correctly. They were fantastic. They did turn out to be the most spectacularly terrible employee that you could ask for. So kind of, be okay with trying to poke some holes in their story, if that makes sense. I know everybody tries to go in and makes themselves, you want to make yourself sound as good as possible. It's the whole point of an interview. You're talking yourself up. But just kind of take a step back, analyze some of those things, and think, all right, was this an act? Try, and it can be hard. I said I've been fooled, and it's not always fun, but you do want to just kind of be aware.
And I think that kind of pulls into pausing to actually call references. So I know that we talked about, connecting with talent, good talent, as quickly as possible. And after you do the interview, you may say, oh my gosh, this person is incredible. I'm really ready to hire them. Being aware of, aware of good actors, if you pause and call references and get somebody to speak on behalf of their work ethic, that could help you avoid some of those habits that may start to present themselves later on after you hire this individual. And it can really help you solidify from other individuals that have worked with them that indeed this person is going to be a good candidate for you. Other places that you could look is, of course, going to be on their social media, if that's something that you wanted to do. Because keep in mind, these people are going to be representing your organization and your company, and that brand goes a long way. So taking a minute to look at their social media to decide if this is going to be someone that might fit with your company is something that you might want to pause just to reflect on and look at as you're considering them. And then lastly, doing a background check or a drug test, if that's something that your organization is willing and interested in doing. This could kind of help you identify some characteristics about a candidate that you may or may not find favorable for your organization.
So we sent out a survey asking some questions, and it's really kind of how we formulated this whole presentation. But one of the most popular, or one of the most common questions we got was, how do you retain talent, especially kind of in this market? We're not Dallas, Houston. We don't always have everything to offer that these big cities do. So we've kind of come up with a few thoughts on being able to kind of compete and retain that talent. You want to keep these people around for as long as you can. This is a big investment of time, going through this posting and hiring and interviewing. So once you get a good one, you want to keep them. So you've got to be competitive. You've got to kind of look at your job and see, how does this compare to other jobs in the area? And especially if you're trying to pull someone in from another market, how does this job, Nacogdoches market, compare to Houston, Dallas, or things like that. So we actually have a really great tool that Brandi, and I'll let her explain that.
So we've got this really great resource, and it is a resource that we have used here at the Career Center to help people identify what a cost of living estimator might be. So I go online and I just Google CNN cost of living estimator. The web address we can share with y'all later on, but this should get you to this particular website here. And a great thing that you can look at is you can identify if you want to say, I live in whatever city, and you're moving to another particular city, you can identify your salary and how much you make in your current city and how much that would equate to the new city that you're planning to move to. So on our example here, this is for someone that lives in Dallas that is moving to or interested in moving to Nacogdoches. And so on here, we have indicate that this person living in Dallas is earning $50,000 a year. So how much would that be in Nacogdoches? So in Nacogdoches, they're going to be looking for a comparable salary that's sitting around $41,000 or $42,000 a year. But as an employer, some key things that you can highlight when you are talking about the position and the salary that your organization is going to be able to offer, you can notice that there's a huge price difference in Nacogdoches compared to that of Dallas. So when you're presenting this salary figure to the candidate, you can go ahead and identify, listen, this is the salary figure that I'm offering you, but know that from where you're moving to here, groceries cost about 11% less. So your money's gonna go further here than it would where you currently live. Or look at how our housing prices are so different compared to the area that you're coming from. Everything from transportation, you can sell how, you may not have to have such a large commute living in this smaller community. And then of course, identifying healthcare and healthcare costs. So this is just a snippet and a resource that you can look at to see the salary that you're offering at your organization for a particular job, what that might look like in a different market or in a different community.
Yeah, I think this is a great tool to use because facts are just that sometimes companies in Nacogdoches or the East Texas area might not just have the deep pockets of the company in Houston, but this is a really great tool to outline, like, hey, you might be making a little less kind of your quality of life might be better. And that goes a long way with people, which I think is kind of another great thing to highlight when trying to retain talent is really, especially in Nacogdoches, showing off the community. Talking about the benefits of Nacogdoches and then getting people involved in the community here. So things like getting them connected with the chamber, different organizations, getting them connected to a good healthcare provider. Don't just, if you're bringing somebody in from out of town, don't say, great, you're here, have fun, see you tomorrow. Yeah. Kind of really be that person, be that tour guide, almost to show them around town, get them connected, show them all the great things that our community has to offer. There's lots of different organizations to get somebody plugged in and really show kind of the full benefits of this community.
I think too, in addition to identifying salary, because typically people will look at that and that salary figure is typically what is going to get deposited into your bank account, right? Like that's what you're bringing home every month or every year. But pausing to actually to quantify how much your organization is investing in different benefits. So being able to be very clear on what the healthcare benefits are that your organization is offering, or if you do any sort of paid time off, what might that look like? If you're doing a 401k contribution, all of those different, or even school loan reimbursement, I think about that. All of those benefits, if you do a little bit of math and you're able to equate what that costs to you as an organization and offer that whole benefits package to that individual, it might be able to give them a clear picture of, okay, yes, there is a greater investment on my employer, on me, than more than just my salary and what I'm actually bringing home.
And even things too, like for if you're just hiring an hourly position or something, highlight benefits even if you're running a restaurant, maybe they get a free meal, or maybe they get a discount when they come in with their family, or if you're running some sort of gift shop or something like that, they get a discount on retail items. So even those little things, if you're, for example, for college students, or those go a long ways. People love free food. So if you're really trying to entice somebody to come, even point out any of those benefits that somebody would get, in addition to those larger ones like health insurance, 401k, all that good stuff.
Yes. Also making sure that when you do have these benefits outlined, it's not something that you're just, thinking about and saying during the interview. Having something that you can present to the candidate that actually goes through and outlines these things for them. This is a big decision for a lot of people, especially if you're looking for non-hourly employees. This is a commitment. And so being able to present them with information that they can kind of take home, think about, and really decide, is this going to be the best fit for me, could help them make the best decision that they can as they are deciding to relocate to our community.
Absolutely. Another, we think, maybe the most important thing, when retaining talent is training. Training is so important. And, now, again, going back to COVID, you're probably wanting to expedite things, just get people in, get them working, but taking the time to slow down, train, make sure people have a good idea of, this is how I do this is my job. That goes a long way. One thing I like doing, especially for management positions, is creating a training binder or a training agenda, whatever you want to call it. So within that binder, it could have things like a calendar of days for, okay, on this day you're going to be training this, on this day you're going to be shadowing this person, all those kinds of things. You put in different tabs of maybe you have a computer system they need to learn, or a calendar system, any of those systems you might have. A layout of the property or the business, contacts for other employees, managers, all those different things kind of that you can hand them when they show up and say, this is your manual, this is how we're going to get things done. And I think another really great thing, in that binder is specifically have that training agenda and calendar and, list out step by step, you need to learn this, you need to learn this. And when they do learn it, you sign and have the employee sign also. So later on down the road, they can't say, well, you never taught me this. You can look at it and say, well, no, actually on this date on your training agenda, we did this topic. And so it just really, it kind of keeps you accountable. It makes sure that the employee is learning what they're supposed to learn and hopefully keeps them there for a long time.
Yes. And also, if the employee has questions later on, you can always refer back to that.
Yeah. And I always kind of keep a space in there for their own notes, that they can add things that they've written down, little, tips and tricks, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So key thing, thinking about how things are operating in the COVID times, really hitting home on that you may need to slow down a little bit so that you can speed up. If you bring in talent and you really take the time to invest in them in their training, they may start to really feel like they're part of the organization and they're not just being thrown into something, which allows them to really slow down, ask good questions, and really start to take on this organization. Another great way that you can get started with this, because I know that this can sometimes seem like a daunting task of, oh my gosh, I need to create a manual for every position that I ever hire. You most likely have current employees right now that could start taking a snapshot of different procedures and different parts of their day that you can start to compile into a workbook or into a manual. So use your current talent your current workforce that you have right now to start building that material out for the next individual that's coming in. Other things to think about are going to be, conducting regular performance evaluations. So whether that's after the first 90 days, checking in with the candidate, letting them know how they're doing, things that they may need to improve upon, but also things that they're doing really well. And then making that annual evaluation a regular thing, that you dedicate the time and you invest in your employees so that they know if they're doing the work the way that you want it to be done. It also allows you to be able to identify goals that this person may want to set for the next upcoming year and really start to stretch their experience within your organization for a potential promotion or moving into a different department or a different role. I think about that when it comes to hiring different generations, right? And what's important to them as a job seeker and the work that they do. So when we think about hiring millennials are extremely interested and driven by the meaning and the purpose of the work that they're doing. So as long as you as a supervisor or as an owner of an organization can really move off of the day-to-day stuff and be able to identify the overall impact that your organization is having in the community or in the world, that helps draw in that candidate even closer to that organization because they know why they wake up every day to come into work at this organization. The other thing that they crave is going to be that regular feedback, which I know can seem annoying for some individuals of, giving people an over amount of attaboys or being able to give them that timely feedback. But being able to have those healthy conversations in the moment and getting that individual back on course and letting them know that they're doing a good job helps, again, kind of validate them in the work that they're doing. And then lastly, the third characteristic that I wanted to mention was identifying opportunities for growth. So typically a millennial is looking at staying at an organization or staying in one particular position, more importantly, on average between 2 to 3 years. And it's nothing against the organization, it's the drive to continue to push forward on that meaning. So being able to identify the opportunity for advancement for a candidate as you're doing evaluations or as you were giving them those kind of side attaboys in the hallway.
Even maybe as you're doing the interview process.
Yes.
People are interested in that. When they're interviewing with somebody, they want to know, all right, is this the only position I'm ever going to be able to have at this company, or is there opportunity to grow? And, just be honest with them. If there's not, there's not. But, if there is, outline that.
Yes. So that way they can, again, kind of support those characteristics of their generation of saying, I want to give more, I want to do more, but I want to advance as well within this organization. So even if you're providing professional development or certain trainings that are infused even after their initial training period, that can, again, help them just feel more invested and potentially retain that talent.
All right, well, I think that kind of wraps up everything we had. If y'all have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box, and Barbara can read them aloud to us. We're happy to answer, anything, and if we don't know the answer, we'll just make up one. But thank you so much to the Chamber and to NEDCO, Mary Frances and Barbara, for helping us set all of this up today and making sure we were here on time and ready to go to talk to you all this morning.
I'll ask a question.
Okay.
When in the interview process should you start talking about pay? And when you do, because we had an intern, and I know he said he was offered a job and they told him X amount of money, and then he went back with a counter. As a end of the baby boomer, that is like You asked for a counter offer. That's a very,
That's a bold move, right?
that's a very bold move.
Yes.
So when is the appropriate time? Because you don't want to go through the whole process and then say, oh, and we'll pay you $10 an hour when they're thinking it's a $40,000 year job.
I think, so the question, if you can hear, is when do you talk about salary in the interview process? I think one good thing to do is, on the initial job posting, put a salary range, because that's automatically, and you don't have to put the exact figure, and you can put pay based on experience and all those little asterisks, but that automatically weeds out some people. And now you're still going to get some that you could say this job pays between $40,000 and $50,000, and you're going to get somebody that comes in and says, I want $80,000. Well, right then, sorry, this isn't going to work. But as far as what do y'all advise students to do? when
Yeah.
talking about salary?
So we encourage students and job seekers, don't ask about it unless the employer brings it up. But once the employer brings it up, it's fair game to start to have those conversations. We do encourage students as well, or job seekers as well, to come in with a range on and we encourage them to do industry research to decide what is a fair and reasonable amount for this particular position in this particular area. So encouraging them to take kind of the lowest salary range that they were able to find and then go up by 20%. So that gives them a range that they can offer, because sometimes the employer will ask, how much do you think I should pay you for this position? And so we encourage students to be ready for that. Oh boy, I haven't thought about that, right? I thought you were telling me.
Yeah,
that.
because it's tricky. You don't want to
No.
And you don't want to say too high and make the employer just disregard you. So I think also as an employer, when you do ask that question, you do kind of have to take it with, okay, just because they said this doesn't mean that's it. We can maybe work on this. And in future employees might counter, and I think that's okay. You just be ready with your counter, after that. So there can be some negotiations. I don't think it has to be this one set. You make this, there's no talking about it. If it's the right candidate and they have great experience, maybe you are open to kind of exploring some different salary options.
I am going to agree with Brian though, as an employer, just being more transparent about that, because typically people work to earn a living. Of course, gaining skills and giving back to the community is all equally as important, but also at the end of the day, I may be looking for a particular position that's within my salary range. But by doing your research and offering a range instead of a hard and fast figure, that can help give you a little bit of wiggle room when it comes to negotiation. And you'll know what you have budgeted or allotted for that position. So if you have a certain amount budgeted and that's the highest you can go down by 20%, and that's your range. That's the range you can offer. Excellent question.
Right. Anything else?
Last call for questions.
Well, there's one.
Oh, there is one. Okay. How do you recommend employers begin to build relationships and brand recognition among future talent? For recent graduates, they may miss out on great opportunities because they are unfamiliar with your organization.
Excellent.
Well, you can start.
Okay, I'll start. I'm going to go back to saying, as a company, I encourage you to look at what your online brand looks like. What are people seeing when they Google your company? What does your website look like? Do the links work? Is it very clear as far as what your organization does and again, the meaning, what y'all are all about, what your purpose is? Again, a lot of people are looking at talent from their phone, so making sure that your website's mobile friendly and that you can navigate everything from your hand and not necessarily from a computer. But to me, having that very clear online brand that is true and consistent across the board, across all of your platforms, is going to be able to create a more clear message for the candidate.
But I think also if people aren't familiar with your brand or your organization, maybe it's because you're not out in the community enough. So have someone from your company or you, if it's just you, go be involved in some different organizations, get your name out there. If you're really wanting to connect with SFA students, do things like the job fairs, and even if it's just that you're not wanting to hire, for a ton of positions, you're maybe looking for an intern or something, just start interfacing with those college students. I know that's kind of a very specific Nacogdoches kind of example, but join things like the SFA Chamber Connection, like really kind of figure out how to get engaged with the SFA community, and then again, just having that online presence, I think goes a long way also.
And just having somebody that can speak on behalf of the organization and really tell your story well, the more compelling and the more clear that message can be, the more likely I'm going to be able to engage with it. So even if you're doing short videos about your organization on your social media, those are things that I may start watching to learn more about.
And you kind of want to put your S-face forward. You might have this accountant that's worked for you for 25 years, but maybe they're a little grumpy. You don't want to send them out to go, getting the new hires. You want to send kind of somebody that's fun and has a great personality and can interact well with these new people to really start building those relationships.
All right, the next question. How do you address applicants' concerns for COVID, safety procedures, and job security?
I think you just address it with honesty, being very upfront. Some, it's kind of a crazy world right now, and different companies are doing different things. If your company is fully online and remote, you just address that from the very beginning. For the Fredonia, for example, is we don't have that option. So if a company or if a future employee candidate, wants a position, they've got to be comfortable with coming in and interacting with people. Now, we can highlight all of the things to them that we're doing for safety procedures, as in, taking employees' temperature still, requiring masks, using disposable items, that kind of thing. So if somebody's a little hesitant, I would just say highlight all of the precautions you are taking.
That's exactly what I would just making sure that you're exceptionally clear as not only how you're taking care of your customers, but also how are you taking care of your employees in the office.
All right, our next question. There are so many job posting sites available out there for employers to pick from. Would you recommend posting on all of them or being more selective?
So as I kind of mentioned earlier, our hiring portal of our website has the option to post straight to Indeed, different things. Now, the one we've had the most success with is Indeed, but it does also post to other job sites. And I think a lot of those, the way their algorithm works, they can kind of pick up other ones. So just because you post on one doesn't mean it's not going to show up on another and might redirect somebody. So, I mean, if you're really wanting to get your job out there, post it. It's not going to hurt.
No,
post it on all the different platforms possible.
Yes. And then I would encourage you to pay attention to see where your different applicants are coming from on a regular basis. So if you notice that when you post at SFA through Handshake that you're getting a ton of applications come through and those candidates end up working out really well for your organization, then that one probably wants to stay on the top of your list. But if you notice that you're posting on these, as an example, a Facebook group, and you're not really getting any likes, you're not getting any shares, then that may not be the number one place that you want to start to post your position. Excellent question. Okay. All right.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for watching today. And I know this is recorded, so if you're watching later, thanks for taking the time out of your day to watch it now. I believe on the presentation, we have our contact information. So if you ever have any questions, anything we can help you with, please feel free to contact us. We'd love to talk with you more.
Do you have any closing remarks, Wayne?
Just thank you. That was very interesting. This whole, just like everything else in the business world, the employment market is changing on a day-to-day basis as well. And anytime we can get information this relevant, it helps us do our jobs better. So thank you both, Brandi and Ryan, for the work you're doing, and Barbara and Mary Frances for setting this up. Great job on everybody's part. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.